Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we are going to be going over some of the earlier reviews for Boom, the Stephen Moffat Doctor Who Return episode. I am very excited for this one. I have been ever since it was rumoured long ago that Stephen Moffat would be returning alongside Russell T Davies, and yes, he's finally back. I'm very excited. And the reviews are in, and the reviews are glowing. This seems to be, according to the reviews, an instant classic. A return to the epic one-offs Moffat would give us in RTD1, with some of his complex, nuanced character work that he brought in his own era. I'm incredibly excited. I'm going to dive right into these reviews. Subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. You'll notice this is actually the second video today. This is going to be a much more simple video. Last video was a 20-minute one talking about your opinions and sort of feelings towards Space Babies and the Devil's Cord. And if you want to watch that video, I will leave a link in the description and a card in the corner, because it took me a while to edit, but unfortunately didn't quite hit the algorithm. But what did hit the algorithm was my video on the TV theory, which I want to thank you all for the support on. I haven't had a video blow up like that in quite some time, so I really appreciate it. But with that said, let's get into it. So this first review is from Radio Times, Doctor Who Boom Review, heart-stopping return for Stephen Moffat. Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson are breathtaking in the former showrunner's return episode. Don't move, Doctor Who's new episode Boom is nearly here. After 7 years, former showrunner Stephen Moffat has returned for just one episode in season 14, the hair-raising and heart-stopping Boom, and it clearly doesn't disappoint. Known for his haunting monsters and all-time classics like The Girl in the Fireplace and Blink, Moffat's return has been highly anticipated. But Boom spells something rather different for him. Stripped back to its very simplest of premises, it's a mesmerising character piece that does just what we've been waiting for, showcasing everything Ncuti Gatwa the Doctor and Millie Gibson Ruby Sunday can do, with a tense and brutal character-driven script. Oh, there's a music to my ears, a character-driven, brutal script, yes! The third episode of the new run sees the Doctor and Ruby arrive on Castarion 3, a bleak and war-torn planet. The Doctor accidentally stands on a sophisticated landmine which has triggered movement, and has to figure out a way to save himself, Ruby, and the entire planet without moving a muscle. Of course, Moffat's style is easy to recognise in Boom, but there's no childhood terror in the style of Blink, and complex plots in the style of his own era. What's there is solid and simple story, and crucially, breathtaking performances for Gatwa and Gibson, with a hint of heartbreak along the way. Most fans have already been won over by Gatwa's charismatic, witty, and energetic Doctor, but Boom shows a completely different side to him. Vulnerable, unsure, and let's face it, downright terrified. It's a welcome new glimpse into our mysterious new Doctor, and if anyone needed it, further proof that Gat can handle quite literally anything thrown at him. With the Doctor being out of action, Ruby is forced to step up, with Gibson perfectly portraying our new companion on her first adventure to an alien planet. Her performance beautifully reminds us of how young Ruby Sunday actually is, and just how much she's been through as the mystery of her birth continues. She's given plenty to do in Boom and rises to the challenge easily, adding more nuance and depth to a companion that's incredibly new to us. Okay, so I want to break this bit down, because there's a few things I want to go over. One thing that I do find a bit interesting is that this article infers that this is Ruby's first trip to an alien planet, which is weird given Devil's Cord suggests they've been travelling for 6 months. Like, surely she would have done an alien planet by now. All the more reason why that 6-month line doesn't really make any sense, but I digress. What I've really been wanting for Ruby is that companion sort of showcase, and I think this is going to be it. You know how in Rose, there's that bit where she does the, I've got no A-levels, no job, no future, but I tell you what, I have got gymnastics, whatever it was, and she like saves the Doctor. Ruby hasn't had that moment yet, but it's looking like she basically has to be the hero here, whilst the Doctor is stuck on this landmine, kind of out of action, which I love as a dynamic. It's a really cool premise. It's a sensational performance from the pair of them, whose chemistry only goes from strength to strength, once again showing off the calibre of casting when it comes to Doctor Who, and pointing out how much both of them still have to showcase. It's an absolute treat whenever they're both on screen, and together they seamlessly navigate some of the most intense scenes we've seen so far from them. Where Space Babies and Devil's Cord may have suffered from a slight lack of jeopardy for our TARDIS duo, there's no such concern here, with the Doctor, Ruby, and an entire planet on the blink, twitch or breath away from destruction at any moment. Perhaps the first time in season 14, Boom will have you hooked from the very off, aptly not wanting to move for a second. It's not an all-time classic when compared to Moffat's past work. There are some slightly jarring themes that don't always work, perhaps a victim of cuts and the timing of the episode, but Boom is a very solid episode and a welcome return for Moffat, who continues to bring us some of the most unique and memorable stories in modern Doctor Who. Tense, suspenseful, visually beautiful, heart-wrenching, and slightly unhinged, Boom is quite simply a recipe for a stellar Moffat return. So another thing I want to cover there, they say that it's not an all-time classic, where I've seen another review actually call it an all-time classic, and we'll get onto that in a sec, but it does say something I found interesting, and I sort of mentioned pacing in a previous video, but it does say, perhaps a victim of cuts and the timing of the episode, which is a criticism I've seen a lot of people air at Devil's Cord. It makes me wonder if these episodes should have been an hour each. I don't know whether that's on the table for future series, but with the reduction down to 8 episodes, 45 minutes just doesn't seem to be cutting it for these stories anymore. But otherwise, that's an incredibly promising review from the Radio Times that gave it 4 stars. But there's another, even more glowing review, and that's from Total Film. Doctor Who Season 1 Episode 3 review. Stephen Moffat's return with Boom is an instant classic. Stephen Moffat's return to Doctor Who has been eagerly awaited by many, being the man responsible for some of the show's best episodes, including Blink, which introduced the Weeping Angels, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances. However, with it being 7 years since Moffat last worked on the beloved sci-fi show, has the former showrunner still got it? The answer is a resounding yes, as his latest episode, Boom, proves once again that no one can write the Doctor quite like Moffat. This time, writer Moffat has teamed up with director Julianne Robinson for an episode which stripped everything back, showing that less is more to a remarkable effect. In short, it's an instant classic. On this adventure, the Doctor and Ruby land on a war-torn planet which is ablaze with the fires of conflict, searching amongst the rubble to help whoever or whatever is screaming. However, as the Doctor goes rushing in without pausing for a moment, he accidentally steps on a landmine, having to solve the clash without making a single movement, as he tells Ruby, one wrong move and a boom. It's a simple idea brilliantly brought to life, showing a mastery in economical storytelling, playing out in real time with pressure ratcheting up minute by minute. Of course, we are more than familiar with stakes and tension in the world of Doctor Who, but we rarely see suspense quite like this. The Doctor has never been more limited in his powers either, and not only is he unable to move, but his pulse also can't rise by even a beat. He can't run, he can't search for the trusty sonic screwdriver, and that clever mind can't work overtime, otherwise a surge of adrenaline would trigger the landmine. The question of how, or even if, our heroes will survive this encounter for once feels legitimate, with Moffat also unafraid to deliver some of the most shocking twists that will leave you on the very edge of your seat. With no tricks up his sleeve, everything out of control, the Doctor is desperate and powerless, quietly singing to himself in order to remain calm, continuing this season's musical edge. Gatwa is able to explore a different side to the Time Lord, flexing some new muscles, even though ironically, he doesn't physically move for the vast majority of the episode. He's completely mesmerizing, as the actor instead has to rely on his eyes to tell the Doctor's story. In fact, the actor has never been better than he is here. That's very exciting. I've sort of said one thing I've been wanting from Gatwa is a big, serious moment, akin to something like, for example, the Human H Family of Blood scene for Tennant, or even something like the Pandorica scene for Smith, or something like that. And it's looking like, whilst it might not be as flashy as that, we could really see some depth to Gatwa's Doctor here, which I'm very excited for. The same can be said for Gibson's Ruby, who really goes through the ringer here, especially since the Doctor is relying on her to save both him and the planet. The dynamic is switched up, with the Doctor helpless, the companion has to step up to the plate. Even though she's still new to these adventures in space and time, gone is the giddiness we saw between them in the previous episodes, where they ran around the TARDIS giggling like schoolgirls, and in its place is a much mature relationship. The Doctor needs Ruby, but she isn't simply going to just follow his orders. She challenges him, showing a defiant edge. It's clear that this encounter will see their relationship forever changed, and it's exciting to see where that evolves next as the series continues. That's another thing I'm really looking forward to. We haven't really seen these two characters have much conflict at all yet. They've relatively been on the exact same page. They've loved travelling, and that's been a fun dynamic, and I've enjoyed seeing it, but I have missed a bit of that tension. There was a tweet that came out earlier today comparing a scene from The Space Babies and a scene from End of the World, and something you notice is there's so many moments where 9 and Rose really don't get on early on. It takes a while for 9 to open up, and whilst I've enjoyed the friendliness of this era so far, I am looking forward to getting a bit more edge. However, although Boom is a more serious installment that will leave you sitting on a knife's edge of tension, at the end of the day, this is Doctor Who, and it will still have moments of joy too. For example, amidst the danger, Ruby pauses to stare at the sky, gazing at the planets in starstruck awe, overwhelmed by the magic of it all. It's a moment filled with fantastical wonder that will likely bring a tear to your eye, reminding us that even though the world's on fire, it remains beautiful. Boom also celebrates the one thing that has always been at the heart of the sci-fi show, love. After all, it is the most powerful force of them all. Despite its simplistic premise, Boom does dive into more complex themes, which leaves us with much food for thought. The tight story confronts the audience with fascinating and timely questions regarding faith, war, as well as AI. In another writer's hands, this could have easily been explored rather clumsily or left too much as subtext, but Moffat expertly balances it all perfectly. Ultimately, this is Doctor Who at its very best, and it sets a new bar for the rest of the season. My thoughts and prayers go out to the team that had to follow Moffat's masterpiece here, but with Boom delivering some tantalising teasers, don't worry, we aren't going to spoil anything here. As to where we're going next, I simply cannot wait. Well, that's a glowing review. That's a radiant review. And I mean, obviously, people will say, oh, well, people early are going to be nice to it. But man, I don't know. This one seems different, man. It seems like they really, really like this one, and it's getting me really, really excited to see what Moffat's cooked up. Something I find interesting is Moffat going to be doing commentary on war and religion and faith and AI. Like, that's so interesting. Oh, I'm excited for the themes. The themes, give me some themes. Because that's another thing. Both Space Babies and Devil's Cord are relatively light when it comes to deeper meanings. They're quite, I don't want to say frivolous, because that's the wrong word, but light is probably the word I would use. Turn left, this is not. This seems to have some of that juicy subtext and sort of commentary that I love to see in Doctor Who, mixed up in a beautiful sci-fi package, and I'm really looking forward to this one. As much as I love Russell, and he is, in my opinion, in terms of modern showrunners, for the job of showrunner, he makes perfect sense. He's got a very marketing-focused mind. He can write scripts that have mass appeal with the general public. Moffat is the guy you get in when you want a masterpiece. He can just come in, drop a masterpiece like it's nothing, and leave. He did it over and over again in Russell's first era, and what's so exciting about this is that we are getting that again. We are getting a Moffat script inside a Russell era where he can just focus solely on one idea and one premise and really, really nail it. Because that is one of the criticisms I have of some of the stories in his era, is that sometimes I feel like he can get lost within his own ideas. With this, it's a simple premise that he can execute laser focused, and I really, really am looking forward to it. This sounds like it could be an all-time great. Obviously, I'm not trying to hype it up too much, but I'm hyped, so it's hard for me to not portray that to you guys. My core thing is, I'm very excited to see a more serious side to Gatwa's Doctor. I'm excited to see Gibson's companion, as in Ruby Sunday, earn her stripes as a companion, because I feel like she hasn't had that much danger yet. And crucially, I think most significantly for me, I'm looking forward to Ruby disagreeing with the Doctor for a bit. Because sure, it's lovely to have the companions have a nice dynamic with the Doctor. But I like it when they, don't always agree. And I think that's where the drama comes from. We haven't really had that yet, but this seems to be the episode to do it. And if the reviews are anything to go by, it could well be the episode that kind of changes their dynamic moving forward. So, sounds great. I hope it's as good as the reviews say it is, because they're making it sound like just what the Doctor ordered, ironically. A serious, tightly written sci-fi script with some great character. That, I think, is quite the palate cleanser from episodes that, again, I want to reiterate, I enjoyed, but we have had 3 pretty light, fun, more fantasy-esque adventures, so going into something more hard sci-fi and serious and tense sounds like just what I want. But let me know what you guys think, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.